Only the wind whispers between the burnt-out shells of abandoned machines. Somewhere in the distance, a deep, hollow rumble. And beneath that sound, like an echo from another time, a silhouette slowly emerges, a tank that should never have existed. It could destroy a king tiger with a single shot. But its real enemies weren't on the battlefield. They were behind blueprints, in offices. What really happened? Why did a project approved by the military commission vanish without a trace? And who decided to erase what could have been the most dangerous tank of World War II? They say its gun tore apart its own chassis during the first tests. They say someone wanted it forgotten, but the documents tell a different story. This isn't just a story about a tank. It's a story about ambition, fear, and time. A time that never forgives those who fall behind even by a step. The T-34-100, the tank that could have changed the end of the war, but came too late to become a legend. By mid-1944, the Soviet army was advancing with confidence. On the front lines, Panthers and Tigers appeared more and more often. Heavy, well-armored machines that most Allied shells simply bounced off of. The new T-34 model, with its 85mm gun, seemed at first like the peak of Soviet engineering. Powerful, versatile, easy to produce. But soon it became clear its firepower was already outdated. The Zeiss 53 gun had decent explosive shells, but its armor penetration fell short compared to the KWK-42. That meant Soviet crews had to fight at closer range, risking being hit before they could even aim. The T-34's advantage, once decisive, began to fade. Upgrading the armor was impossible. The structure had reached its limit. There was only one path left, a stronger gun.
The first replacement attempts failed. Designers tried new guns like the Zeiss 85 PM and the V9, but neither delivered the expected power. The Su-100 self-propelled gun, armed with a 100mm cannon, performed brilliantly against German tanks, but it wasn't a tank. Its fixed superstructure limited visibility and mobility. The Army wanted a real tank, one that combined mobility and heavy firepower. That's when the idea was born, to mount a 100mm gun inside the T-34 turret. A bold task, fit a massive weapon into an existing frame without losing balance or stability. Several design bureaus were put to work. At plant number 92 in Gorky, Vasily Savin's team followed the technical specs to the letter. Based on the 85mm gun, they built a new one, the Zeiss 100. Surprisingly, it actually fit inside the T-34-85 turret. Everything looked promising until the first tests. The first shot revealed the fatal flaw. The recoil was so powerful, the chassis couldn't handle it. Each round shook the tank violently, stressing its suspension. They added a muzzle brake to reduce the shock. It barely helped. The T-34, known for its reliability, simply wasn't built for that kind of power. Any major redesign would break production compatibility and raise costs, unacceptable in wartime. The project stalled. But one man refused to give up. Chief engineer of plant number 183, Alexander Morozov, was known for his independence. He knew that following instructions too strictly would lead to nowhere. At the time, a new tank meant to replace the T-34 was being developed, the T-44. Its turret was already complete, so Morozov took a risk. He mounted the T-44's turret on a T-34 chassis. That hybrid became known as the T-34-100. The new turret required massive changes. Its ring was 10 centimeters wider, forcing a complete redesign of the interior. The radio operator and front machine gun were removed. Fuel tanks were moved forward, the suspension reinforced, and drive wheels modified to handle the added weight. Despite some weight reductions elsewhere, the tank now weighed 33 tons. It was no longer just a T-34. It was a bridge to a new generation of Soviet armor.
Tests showed Morozov's design worked, but not perfectly. 2 prototypes, one with a ZIS-100 and one with a D-10 gun, fired powerfully but lacked accuracy. Recoil still stressed the transmission, though less severely. The Commission called the project promising, but demanded fixes. Time was running out. The war wouldn't wait. Then came an unexpected breakthrough. At Plant Number 92, engineers developed a new gun, the LB-1. Same caliber, but with a completely new recoil system. The shock was much softer, making it possible to install on the T-34 without major redesigns. In early April 1945, tests began near Gorky. The results were stunning. The LB-1 was accurate, stable, and powerful. Even during rapid fire, the transmission held up. Only one issue remained. The barrel was too long, sticking out over 3 meters beyond the hull, making maneuvering on rough ground tricky. But overall, the tank was perfectly balanced. The Commission approved it for production. Everything was ready. A powerful, reliable, universal tank. The ultimate evolution of the legendary T-34. But time ran out. Spring 1945. The war was ending. The Red Army was already in Berlin. There was no reason to rush new production. The T-44 was already on the line. Faster, better protected, and more modern. Next to it, even the T-34-100 looked outdated. Industry moved on to post-war goals. The project was quietly shelved. Only 5 prototypes were ever built, silent witnesses to a tank that never got its chance. It was never mass-produced, never exported. It simply disappeared. Sometimes history hinges on months. Had the LB-1 appeared earlier, or had Morozov finished sooner, the T-34-100 might have fought in the final battles. Its firepower matched even the heaviest German armor, and its mobility made it a deadly all-rounder. It could have been the missing link between the T-34 and the future T-54.
But history took another path. After the war, priorities shifted. The world entered the age of heavy tanks and new doctrines. The T-34-100 didn't fit. It was a machine of transition, a last burst of wartime genius. Today, only a few historians and engineers remember it. Its name rarely appears in books. But behind it stood hundreds of people who pushed the limits of what was possible. And though it never became a battlefield legend, its story remains a symbol of how the pursuit of perfection can sometimes outpace time itself. The T-34-100 never rolled in victory parades, never appeared in newsreels, never became famous.
but in it lived the final attempt to perfect the most iconic tank of World War II. It was ready to fight, but when its time came, the war was already over. The T-34 100 became a shadow of a great era, too powerful to be a copy, too late to become a hero.